Hey there, everyone. We're back with another video with our teammate Craig, who did a phenomenal finish at Pro Play Tour in Miami with a deck that blew everyone out of the water and didn't think it was going to make top cut, except this man actually did it. And this is the launch deck. This deck has been well anticipated, and everyone has been vying for this list. Craig, can you tell us a little bit about the tournament itself? How did it run? How did you feel with this deck? Did you feel like this was a good choice going into it?
Going into it, I was super nervous because meta calls, like this was definitely not meta, but I wanted to have fun. This is the first live event for a lot of the big dogs in Dragon Ball, and you knew they were going to show up with their stuff. And the card guys, especially with like Isaiah, and if you are known for some of the most rogue decks out there. So let's go with the theme of the card guys and let's try
Absolutely.
it out. So before we
Absolutely.
even really go into it, though, let me give a huge shout out to Ryan Connolly and the El Topo Loco guys. His videos and some of his information that he gave me on that deck, super insightful. Like without that, I don't think I would have really had the inspiration to try it. I would have probably been like every other jobber out there and played Mecha. So
We know that Mecha did have a huge showing at this tournament with, I believe, 4 of the top 16 decks actually belonging. That's what, quarter of the top 16. Now, as we go into this deck tech, everybody, I want to let you know that our TCG Player affiliate link is down below in the description. If you see any cards in this deck list that you really need to pick up before they spike up, thanks to Craig here, make sure you click that link. Help us out a little bit, helps the team, helps the channel, and make sure that we can keep delivering you content with the highest quality. So let's get into this deck tech.
all
So,
right, guys. Oh, sorry.
no, go right ahead. This is your deck.
So we wanted to play Launch. I'm a huge fan of Red Earthlings, and she has one of the most unique mechanics that I've seen in Dragon Ball. So on her front side, she's 5k Earthling. Once per turn, when you combo with a card, you do draw a card. And then also, pretty much once per turn, when a card in your life is flipped face up by one of your card effects, you can actually flip this card over. And if you do, you draw a card, but you can't do it again. So the backside of it, if we can move over to that slide, is a 10k Earthling that whenever she attacks, you choose up to one of your opponent's cards. Now, this can be a battle card, a unison, or a leader, and you neg it 5k, which is really nice because you can attack their leader, and then if they have like Black Masayan, which is the bane of this deck on a 1-drop, you can just neg their Black Masayan by 5k, still swinging a 10k at their leader on like turn 1. So you're doing pretty good on that point. And then again, on her backside, once per turn, you combo and draw a card. And then the same caveat of if a card in your life is flipped up, you flip her back to her front side, again, once per turn and draw a card.
So before
So for
we
the most part,
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, for the most part, every turn, you're drawing 3 cards with this ability, like almost right out the gate.
So
So your hand stays plump.
that's what I was gonna say. What leads you to this leader over other past leaders like Hercule or the Red Green Broly Surge that both draw a lot of cards on both players' turn? What leads you to play Launch instead of one of those leaders?
Red Green Broly was restricted to only comboing with red or green cards. There
Okay.
were many a time in the tournament I had to combo with a black card just to get that extra draw off the backside. So if like I'm sitting with 3 of the Overrealm Bardocks, he's an easy combo piece because I mean you're talking 3 more turns of overwhelming. If I get that far, I've done something wrong, or my opponent's done something really right. So it's just a free combo draw card. Hercule, I'm really bad at this game, and somebody told me in the chat that his combo only happens when he himself is in a battle. Her ability lets you do it when any of your cards are in a battle. So anytime you combo, you get to draw the card. Anytime you activate her flip, you can draw the card, regardless if she's in the combat or not. So a lot of the synergies of the deck actually revolve around comboing with the flip cards with your battle cards and then getting your leader to the backside so that she can neg something by 5.
And this
So
leader obviously being one of the quote-unquote rogue strategies this format has, with you being the only launch deck to make top cut. And as you told us earlier, a lot of people were crowding around you because they didn't expect this leader to really kind of show up. This leader, I think, with it being a fantastic leader, has its draw power, but also has its answers to those pesky 5Ks that you did mention with its backside auto, and being able to quote-unquote awaken so easily. Being able to get there is something that I believe, and in your opinion, probably was easily attained, was it not?
Oh, absolutely. We definitely worked with the numbers to make sure that we didn't brick too hard on the flip cards.
Fantastic.
I
So
tried
let's
And we
get
really
did
into
hard
this.
to
this
We
make
did
actual
it.
this.
deck.
We did this well before the TP promos because one, we didn't have access to them, and two, Machado said that they're not legal for this event.
Uh-huh.
So that made it like really restrictive on how we built this list because most people on Untapped are playing with the TP promos. So it's like, we gotta be creative.
I tried really hard to get him down to 50 cards because we only have 8 targets in this deck for you to flip over, so we need
But
to
we
see
know
them.
that I don't like everything that Neil says, and I go against him. So I had to do 51. 51.
So
Hey, my
let's see
wife's a
that
mathematician. She
creativity.
did the
Yeah.
numbers. Like, it's not too far off.
Also, compared to Hercule, the fact that she can do a minus 5k on anything means that you can still aggress with the against their lead. It's huge.
The really good part is that you can actually mess up a Vejec's player's unison whenever he drops it because it's only 5k.
And make
So
him
when you
lose a
neg the
marker.
5k, it removes the counter and you're attacking. So essentially, your leader has double strike against any of the 5k unisons.
And when it loses the marker from the neg power, it doesn't keep any of the skills.
Lose
Not that
double
it's
strike.
relevant because
No,
it's
it's
on
not
the
su-
attack.
Oh, super relevant. It means they lose double strike.
But the launch is only on attack, right?
Oh, sure,
Leader?
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But it makes it so that like they'll lose extra counter.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so essentially against a 5k unison, she has double strike.
Like Demigra or something, which was popular in the Turles build that Marcel Russell used. So
Right.
Going into the deck.
This is our engine. The 4-drop super rare, the Bulma were musts. I mean, without that, we wouldn't have the engine that we have. I learned because I only had 3 days worth of practice, real practice with the deck. So I had to almost learn on the fly how to manipulate when to combo with each one of these to keep myself on the whichever side I needed to be so that I could activate the launch out of the drop when I really needed it the most. Because the 1-drop launch SR says when if your leader card is a red Earthling card with 10,000 power or less, when it's used in a combo, you can flip one of your life face up. And then if you do at the end of the turn, you flip that life face down. But then she's also got the activate battle. If your leader card is a red Earthling with 5k power or less, you can actually combo with this out of the drop. And then you have to warp it at the end of the turn. So with the leader bouncing between a 10 and a 5k, you have to really understand when to manipulate which side you need to be on. So it really helped out a lot because if I was on my 5k side and I really needed to push through, I would combo off with the SR and then be able to combo with them out of the drop to get even more. So I mean, I was sitting on the 3 of those. It would be 15k, 30k combo power in a turn. It was
Talk to me about this dispo. How did it work out for you this weekend?
Super secret spice for fun. I needed more green cards to make sure that I could get the arrival packages that are later on in the list to work. But I also wanted more green because of another package we have in the deck. I wanted to be able to consistently hit a green on turn 2 because we go turn 1, stash a red, turn 2, stash a green, and then I'm online for everything else after that. But the dispo helps if I don't see my arrival packages because I can combo with the launch, draw the card on the front side, pseudo awaken, draw a card, and then go to my backside. Then on my backside, I can combo with the dispo, drawing another card. That combat, I'm a 20k, swinging at your leader. Most guys are going to say, I'm going to take the life. Okay, combat's done. Before I pass my turn, I'm going to exile my dispo or send him to the warp. I apologize for this game. And bring my launch into play. Now, yes, her skills negated, but I'm already passing my turn. I have nothing else to do for this turn. So it's a wonderful turn 1 interaction, whereas my opponent swings, I now have another one of my flip cards to gain my draw. So it definitely helped out a lot. People saw me get greedy sometimes and actually just play my Bulma to draw the card if I didn't have anything because I wanted to dig deeper into my deck, then combo with her, then use dispo, and then bring Bulma back for the following turn. It proved to be a lot more card advantage than I thought it would be. So
that sounds like some amazing synergy.
Going forward, you would still play dispo? You swear by
it? Absolutely. I would still say it the 2 of. Because the TP promo actually makes it even better because when you combo with that one, you get to neg something by 5 or 10k, I think it is. So that even creates more synergy for the deck.
So when the TP promo comes out, would you be replacing the Bulma with it or adding more copies of Life Flip into the deck?
I would go 4 launch of the SR, 4 launch TP promo, and then 2 Bulma. I think 10 flip for the deck is fine.
10 is the correct number for.
Right. It keeps it consistent. Like, you shouldn't miss. Now, when you do miss and brick, I played Bulma and I bricked opening hand. And then I sent everything back and then drew again and still had a complete brick. And it took me a while to reestablish board state. And Bulma, when she gets going, we all know the Gogeta chain is rough.
All right.
So it looks here we got a Namekian package?
Yes. The Piccolo Jr., when he was spoiled, everyone was like, this card is nuts. This card is absolutely insane. I mean, right out the gate, it's a 2-drop, 16k double striker. Then you have to put on the fact that it has the Alliance trigger, and the Alliance trigger is insane. Whenever you would alliance with the card, you pretty much burn your opponent 1 life as long as they're at 3 or higher life, and then you draw 2 cards. So it creates so much card advantage. We wanted to keep that consistent. That should be the turn 2 play almost every time. So we wanted to make sure we had at least 4 copies of him. And then the 2 assimilates actually really helped, because if you didn't see the Piccolo but you saw the assimilate, we were running pretty much 6 copies of Piccolo. The only time I was upset with assimilate is if I drew it on my opponent's turn via one of my effects or pulled that on my life. So, but 6 copies pretty much of the Piccolo kept it very consistent to turn 2, turn 3 if I knew my opponent had certain counter plays for me, because the Piccolo doesn't have deflect, doesn't have barrier, so he's very susceptible to pretty much everything in the format.
And about this Trunks, I do find interesting as well. Can you explain why this Trunks was included in this list?
So the Trunks is actually fantastic because he is a free play. Like, the whole deck is trying to crash out as many cards as possible without any kind of investment. He can come down for free as long as I have a red or green multicolor card on my battlefield. And he is a 5k blocker with Revenge, which can work out really well against like Red Broly. I guess I didn't really ever get to do the Revenge part of it because most of the time he was just a free trigger for the Alliance on the Piccolo. Because if I didn't get any of my free plays like my super combos or the Gogetas on the first turns, I needed something to be able to make sure that I was burning my opponent to life and drawing the cards. So this was this package I don't think would change if I'm moving forward with the red-green build. I'm pretty much set. Those 9 cards right there would stay the same. I wouldn't make any change to those numbers.
This is where me and Craig differ.
Part of this deck.
Well, this is where me and Craig differ because I prefer having more assimilate putting in comics, just for the have that extra consistency of like drawing a kami just so you have a charge on turn.
But I can also see where he comes from as well, knowing that assimilate being such a clunky card. Well, yes, it's a 0 cost. If you do get it in off the opponent's turn or in your life, I feel that is very clunky because that doesn't generate enough value per se when it's brought up in those situations. So maybe 2 is the correct call. Maybe if we continue forward and Craig is looking at maybe adding a 3rd one, we could see the difference about that. But for
that
this
didn't stop
deck,
us playing 4 and swap.
Well, all I'm saying is in going forward right now, maybe when the TPs come out, it'll be a little different. But I think right now 2 is the correct call.
So I have a question with this Trunks. How often did you block with it and kill something this weekend?
None. Absolutely.
None?
Well, the deck. I think Ryan was really, and his team was really building it to combat Red Broly. And I think Daylon played a really super secret move and had his entire team hyping Red Broly like for weeks before the event, and then nobody showed up with it other than Rios. So like the deck was really designed to push forward against that mecha. And this Trunks would have been a perfect card against them because you get rid of some of the big things out of Red Broly because they don't really have much to neg it other than the Piccolo Unison. So I just used it for fodder a lot of times because it is you can only have really 1 in play to get the free play effect. So most of the time, if I had multiple, he either became combo power or fodder for my energy.
Got it.
Right. So this is your Gogeta package. You
Yes.
have what I think is probably one of the best arrival cards in the game for red green. This Gogeta, and obviously you have the Nappa, which is your free, your free arrival for red green. So go into this and tell us just the ratios if you would change anything.
Okay, so going into it, for Gogetas, I wanted to consistently be able to hit the Gogeta arrival stuff on turn 1. Charge a red, pass turn to my opponent, or charge a red, swing, and then do the arrival combo so that I could get everything online for Piccolo for turn 2. Because along with my Gogeta should come the SS Gogeta Acrobatic Warrior, the red card that only comes into play unless I hardcast him when I play a 5-drop green-red card. The card was really good when it happened because with the Piccolo on 2-drop, you can actually burn your opponent for 2 life in that attack. Because when that Gogeta uses, or when he's used for Alliance, he allows you to burn your opponent for 1 point of damage, no matter, like, there's no stipulations to it. Like the Piccolo says, if they're at 3 or higher, you get to burn. This one is straight burn. So if my opponent is at 3 life, I trigger the Piccolo first. So they would drop to 2, and then trigger the Gogeta second, so they drop to 1. And then after that, I'm swinging with a 31k double striker. Kind of hard to beat down. And then, of course, Nappa Demolition Man with Launch Leader. He is now a 10k super combo with a draw effect. Then he comes down, and then I can use him again as another 10k super combo and draw again. So he's pretty much a red-green draw super combo that I can use twice. And
So
he is also free play for when I need the Alliance trigger for Piccolo.
with that Acrobatic Warrior Gogeta play that you mentioned, you can theoretically burn your opponent out from 4 life with that, correct? Because the Piccolo Junior is a double strike, and he'll trigger to deal a damage, and then the Acrobatic Warrior itself will deal a damage as well. So you can put them from 4 to 2, and then have a 31k base double strike coming at it on top of whatever you decide to combo. So that seems like a really aggressive way to finish your opponent without them even being prepared for it.
Right, and people thought that the burn card in turn two you can get this, because you're also later on we'll see the other free play packages that you're still applying more pressure to. And this is like your kind of last thing that you're doing, because you want your opponent to waste and use all of their effects and combo cards to stop all the other things we'll see in the next couple slides. So moving forward, though, I apologize on that last one. I would take out one of the Gogetas, the 5-drops, and replace it with the Champa Beerus arrival, because it's the same requirements. 1 red, it's a 20k, but it does give one of my cards double strike and kill one of their cards with power 20k or less. The stipulation on Gogeta of 4 energy or less really was tiresome, because there were several 5-drops in the game, like Bergamo in Mecha Frieza, pretty much everything in Dark Broly that was relevant. You can't kill those cards, and he's your main kill condition. So if I can use some of the effects that I have in the deck to neg down some of their big guys, then the Champa Beerus can come in and kill some things.
Moving on.
This package is more of our free plays. Because we combo so much, draw so much, we generally have a lot of cards in the drop area that give us free realm to overrealm. And the stipulation on Bardock of only overwhelming for 4, we're not investing too much into our drop area to bring him out. And then he's a 20k that draws me 2 cards, and then with the Beerus package, I can discard him and then free play a 15k.
So reliable.
Yes, I mean, everybody knows about this one. This was, if you're playing green, this is generally a great package to go to, because if you already have a Beerus in play, you again can stash it for energy, or you can have it in your drop and then activate main, pay 1 green, and blow up one of your opponent's cards with 3 or less, which helps out a lot to get through green's blockers, because they do have Zarbons, they do have the Gohans, and all those things have revenge, and we don't want to lose our Piccolos, even though they have other things that kill them. We don't want to give them more ways. So that package was really fun. A lot of times in the sideboard against like Sin Shinron and Dark Broly, that came out because I needed the overrealm targets to be stuff that wiped their board. But it was an easy package to move in and out. Like, it was pretty consistent. The Belmont, again, is just a free play. Like with all the free plays I'm going to have in the deck, so the Bardock, the Beers, all those things, I can KO them because the Bardock's going to go away anyways. So he's automatically a freebie. Bring down a Belmont, which is a 20k body, blows up one of their guys, was free, and if I really needed to, he could be a blocker. But more often than not, he was just an offensive card that finished off the game because they didn't see it.
And that's the power of Belmont. It's again another free play, which this deck loves. No energy investment,
Yep.
and it can catch people by surprise.
And it blocker swing for game.
Yeah,
Right. And it has no still like it KOs anything. So yeah, I had no problem KOing 5-drops. I had Sin Shenron, you could bring it down and KO certain cards if they didn't have barrier. Like it was really nice. Like I don't think I would change any of this package here as well in the deck. Like it was very, very consistent. It seemed like it was the perfect way to play this one.
Perfect.
Got some red cards. We're playing a red leader, so
Bardock the Resolute by far was the second MVP. Piccolo, of course. I mean that's pretty much this deck's staple. But the Bardock the Resolute was the MVP runner-up of the tournament. Everybody and anybody in the game right now has a leader effect or some kind of card effect that makes them take a life turn 1 to gain some kind of advantage. When they do that, I get to free play, which is the name of the game for this deck, a 15k double striker that says whenever my opponent activates a counter skill once per turn, I can restand him. So most of the time, like again against Mecha Frieza, they take a life to activate their extra card. I say, hold up, wait a minute. All right, thank you. Turn 0, I have a 15k double striker. And if you try to negate, I'm swinging again. It also triggers with the burn from the Piccolo or the Red Gogeta. It also triggers off of any critical effect that I might have. So it's a great card. I think I would have liked to have bumped it to 3 to see it more consistently, especially with a lot of the opponents playing Mecha, Dark Broly, to be able to at least get some early game pressure so that I could set up for the later turns. The Tau was phenomenal. He was unique, so the issue with him is that you can't have multiple in play. But the turn that you play him, as long as you have... Huh?
That's fine. We play Bell Mood.
Right, absolutely. That's where we come into the later parts of it. Like, you play Mercenary Tau, you do all your stuff, you KO Tau, the Bardock, and pick one other guy. Play
Trunks
a
blocker
Belmont
that you alliance with.
Right.
Play
you
another
KO
one.
those 3, and then you play another one. Right. Like, so you get to keep doing these things, and your opponents are like, "How do you go so deep?" Because again, the deck draws a ton of cards, and everything is free. Once I was past 2 energy.
This Bardock already swung twice. We're gonna KO him and play another one. We get the crit off town.
Oh my god,
dude! I've done some ridiculous stuff with these cards. Ridiculous.
The SS3 Goku one-hit wonder was I don't want to say ingenious thing on my side. The original build that I saw played one of the demons from the King Piccolo stuff that said, like, if your opponent takes a life due to one of your effects, you can discard a card that's not him and free play him from your hand. I didn't like the neg on the hand to be able to free play a guy, and I also didn't like the fact that I had to trigger some effect off of my card skills to gain an advantage of a guy. The Goku can trigger when my leader swings and negs one of their battle cards. I can free play a 15k Goku. Or if I happen to have a 15k Goku in my drop, I can pay 1, neg one of their guys, and then free play the other one in my hand. So it actually was a very, very good synergy. I think I might move him to 3 if I move some of the other numbers around, but I think 2 was a pretty good number. I saw it consistently enough to where it really mattered. So, and this
deck.
Yeah, I mean, this deck here, After Image Technique, if you're playing red and you have stuff in your drop, this card is phenomenal. Like, it stops everything. Most people do not want to swing over top with it. I was able to stop somebody swinging with a 30k because I negged one of their other cards that I might need to swing through, or I needed to get off the board because it was a tiresome card. And then my leader gains 40k. Free play because I have a ton of stuff in my drop, and my life generally stayed relatively high. So, and I knew what my life total was. Like, that was also the biggest advantage of this deck, was knowing almost every card in my life. For the most part, I was flipping so much that I could see what cards were in my life. I knew which ones to take, and I could move my life around so that I took the right ones in the right order. So I didn't really necessarily think the Kai was needed in the main. I think she could be an open spot and move her to the board for some of the more tiresome matchups like Sin Shenron, Dark Broly, Bulma, because she can come down, wipe their field, and then I can just continue going at it. And the best thing about her was the fact that she could get unison cards and anything that's big and troublesome.
The fact that the fact that the Kai Secret Rare can warp unisons is like really underappreciated. I feel like she's obviously a very good card, but by warping your opponent's unison is one of the first moves that you make on your turn. Some people that completely turns off all of their counterplay options if they're like green or blue for the Frieza charismatic villain or the Trunks that bounces up to play for hand. It turns off dormant potential unleashed. There's a lot of things that getting rid of a unison really is impactful in the current state of the game.
All right, that's where.
And that's what I was about to say, and that's where my question kind of lies. Because of the reward to a card like this that has such minimal investment, and with this deck being so reliant on free plays and minimal energy investment, because I believe this comes out for 1, correct?
On turn 3, yes. So you have to have 3 energy for it to happen.
So at turn 3 for 1 energy, that's minimal energy investment, and for 1 card holding 1 slot, I think that just because it can turn off unisons in game 1 and turn off a lot of those well-known cards, as Simon mentioned, I think this is kind of worth it. I think if you keep this in, it's a good tech to kind of beat Sin Shenron and a lot of those grindy decks in game 1 to kind of give you the edge. If you need to board it out, you board it out because you have cards in your sideboard that you can replace it with. The other thing too is that I remember on stream, a lot of the commentary was they couldn't believe that that was in the main deck because of the fact how much it did help you in game 1, and the fact that they were mentioning that it's such an include and no one expects this card coming in the main, and it blows people out because they don't prepare for it. So I think this card being a one of really does fit its slot. If we move it to the board, that could also have merit. I'm just one of those people that likes having an answer for game 1, and I think only needing 1 card to do it with the amount of card draw that we have, I think it's a reliable include.
Right now, the name of the game is playing stuff for as little as possible, and by turning off unisons, that's an extra attack every turn. You're also turning off all of their free counterplays. Like everyone pretty much relies on those at this
point. Right.
And then we have a 1 of Son Goku.
This is my 51st card, despite Neil.
And it has to be a 10K.
Right. Like, again, this card, I think, moving forward, would get replaced with like a Beerus Champa or just completely cut in general. It was something fun. I wanted to drop the card, and people go like, whoa, what is this? Like, why did this happen? What does this do? Again, it's a rival target, but it costs green. So the turns where I would go Arrival Gogeta and I had a green open, I could also Arrival the Goku with the same combo cards. And he came down, and he's a double strike 20K that once per turn in a battle, I can take one of my opponent's combo cards, send it to their drop, and I can give one of my other unison or battle cards 5K for the turn. So it actually really helped when they were trying to swing into my Piccolos. Or they were trying to swing into the red Gogetas so that I couldn't burn them out. I would just eat one of their combo cards and bump him up by 5K for the turn. So it really did help. But again, it was another 10K that I couldn't stash for energy because it would come in tapped. My deck likes to tap out a lot, so I didn't really get to combo with it much either. So that would.
Moving forward, we now have the sideboard. So it looks like a lot of black cards.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows that black has some of the best removal in the game, has some of the best tech cards in the game. The Food the Dark Banisher was an underperformer for me, even against Dark Broly, because the fact that I didn't really get a chance to get that far before they started warping my hand. And then it was, do I warp the Fu or do I warp the cards that I know are going to draw me more things or get me into a position where I can fight Dark Broly off? I think that's probably the bane of the deck is Dark Broly because of the 30Ks and how high costed they are. Against Sin Shenron on stream, I did play him, but I got Nimbused, which I'm pretty sure I thought was going to happen. But again, being a little bit on tilt on camera, I was kind of surprised as well. It did get some cards out of his hand to help slow down the following turn, which was a Cell Xeno out of nowhere. But yeah, I think he was an underperformer. I would probably move him to just 1. I think with enough card draw we have, we could see him reliably at 1. Secret Identity Mass Saiyan was phenomenal against Mecha Frieza, Vegex, and Bulma. For free. Like, you overwhelm your war or your drop. I don't have to put any energy invested into him. I can warp up to a total costed of 6 of their board. It got rid of their 4 drops. It got rid of their 2, 3. I mean, just whatever combo you can get up to 6 was gone. And he's a 25k attacker, which pretty much pushes over anything in the game. I would include him. I think 2 was a perfect number. I saw him enough with ease of dropping without having to worry about warping my SRs out of the drop. Max Power Kamehameha was also another phenomenal add. Thanks, Neil, for that one, because I only ever saw the negate side of this card. I'd never paid attention to the act main nuke something with energy cost higher than my opponent had. So again, all these decks that use...
And it's warp too. It's not KO.
Right. So you can get rid of the
like
Gogetas.
The Gogetas, yeah.
Yep. The Gogetas are the big ones. A lot of the big Shenron cards. Mm-hmm. Like the Secret Mass Saiyan, the Max Power, and this Bardock, those 6 would stay the same no matter what version of this deck I'm going to play. Those cards were actually fantastic. I think I might even, moving forward, replace that one Fu with another of the Bardock Fully Unleashed. That card performed phenomenally. Against Dark Broly, against Sin Shenron, he did a really good job, especially in combination with the Mecha Burra. Because turn 2, you play Mecha Burra, you name 6-drop Dark Broly, their engine pretty much gets shuts off for the turn. Then you come back to your turn, do anything that you want to do. Your opponent plays their 6-drop, you come back down, warp their field, and then play another Mecha Burra, and they can't come back from that one. I got to see that line of play in round 5 when I was in the Rocky Drago fight with Severin. We pretty much each played 3 Mecha Burras on each other back to back to back, and we couldn't force because he would name my 2-drop Piccolo, which really shuts off my ability to push hard, and I would name 6-drop Dark Broly, and we would sit there and stare at each other like lovers. Violent Rays, everybody knows Violent Rays. If you're a red deck, you've got to have it somewhere in your 65, 75, however you build your deck. You've got to have 2 to 3, sometimes 4, depending on if you're a squishy deck. It stops Dark Broly. It stops certain Sin Shenrons. It'll stop a lot of the red Broly stuff for the low cost of 1 red energy and 2 cards. That's a no-brainer, an absolute no-brainer. This Piccolo Jr. is also inspired by Neil. With the testing against Mecha Frieza all the time, with all the counterplays that he has, this Piccolo Jr. allows me, it says, whenever my opponent uses a counter skill, I get to take one of his battle cards and give it minus 15k. And this is not once per turn. This is anytime my opponent plays a counter skill on my turn. So Neil, using Mecha Frieza, would play counters, but he'd also have Chapels in play. Chapel's a 15k that really sucks because he taps my energy. Well, I need to get rid of him. Well, this is the easiest way. The +1 on this card draws me a card. But yeah, I mean, the card is solid all the way through. I don't see a drawback to it. I learned at the tournament you can use the -2 to regenerate above 8 life. The -2 says activate main, choose up to 1 of your red battle cards, and you KO it. And then I believe you do KO everything of your opponents that has power equal to or less than what you KO'd. And then this card gains rejuvenate once per turn, remove 2 markers from it, add a card to your life. In Bulma, it's actually really fantastic because with the Gogeta package, you add a ton of counters to your unisons. So you can actually just start negging to gain a ton of life. In my deck, if I'm going long, which I generally can against Mecha Frieza, the regenerating 1 or 2 life in a game can be life-saving. So I think 2 of was perfectly fine for my deck because I'm not trying to go more than turn 3, turn 4 against anybody. So, yep.
So it seems that this sideboard obviously was well thought out. Obviously, you were able to talk with us, kind of get a better idea, mostly Neil, which gave you your testing. Looking back, do you think that there are any cards that is an auto exclude, which is like any cards that you just wouldn't want to play besides that one card despite Neil?
Looking back at the deck, no, I mean, I really don't. I think that we could move the deck to 54. Looking at it, I really do like the launch that says whenever you flip a life face up or you reveal a life, you pay 1 red and you can play her. Or no, if your leader's on your backside, you can play her for a red. She's a 15k crit for 1 red. I really do like the fact that I can do that even on my opponent's turn if I have to. I do believe it's whenever that effect happens. I think I want to try and push her in there, but that's it. Everything else I think was so streamlined that you want to keep the package so small that you don't miss the ability to flip with your leader. The Achu effect, as my 6-year-old would call it, because every time we opened up an Achu, we had to say the word. I tried to sneeze. I tried to sneeze as much as possible, but with COVID going on, everybody looked at me like I was insane. So I had to move it to a fake Achu whenever I did my effects.
Which
Because
actually
we got to
leads
be
me into my
thematic.
next
We have to be
question.
thematic.
That actually leads me to my next question. You know, this was a real event, an IRL event in the middle of COVID, which has obviously plagued our community since it started happening. Did you feel that PPG took good responsibility with this tournament?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean, to start the thing is masks had to be worn. Everybody had to have a mask on. It needed to be above the nose and below the chin. They enforced it pretty hard throughout the day. Multiple times the announcement was made over the mics or it was walked by and just made sure everybody was understanding. They put out hand sanitizer bottles, just little small ones in between each table so that everybody can get some hand sanitizer going on. They had several stations for hand sanitizer. Patterson did temperature checks for everybody coming into the tournament to make sure that nobody had a temperature. It was pretty done. And I do believe Machado, before the events that he does, has a professional company come in and sterilize the entire environment and then put down, I think it's that like clear barrier that does prevent a lot of microorganisms and viruses from collecting on his environment.
Yeah,
So,
back when the Set 11 tournament was down at PPG, he posted videos and pictures of the cleaning crew coming in, so I can
right.
confirm that he does that. And I think that's a great way to help just sanitize the location to make sure it's the safest way for the players to actually play in the event.
Yeah,
Obviously,
absolutely.
the biggest thing is we want player safety, especially during a very scary time right now. So I applaud you, George. I applaud PPG for taking the necessary precautions. You know, if Greg can say that you guys did a great job, I will believe him wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I mean, I
think
take
that's
my
fantastic.
8-year-old. Right. I mean, I take
Oh,
my
that's
son
right.
to these events.
You brought the Dragon Ball Prodigy.
Yes, sir. We did bring him with us so that he can enjoy. Again, a lot of people like seeing him. I mean, when I was at Nats in 19, people were so mad that I didn't bring him. I was like, it's expensive, and he didn't qualify. Um,
So basically, what we could say is that Machado and PPG did such a good job with making sure everything was good during COVID that you felt comfortable bringing your 8-year-old.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like
Perfect.
I wouldn't have taken him if George wouldn't have made sure that the environment was ready for us to really play in.
If that isn't publicity for George, I don't know what is.
Much agreed.
So
Much agreed. Thank you,
again,
Machado, for everything.
yes, sincerely is like this is just an understatement. I'm very glad that we were able to have an IRL event. This event was hyped up. This was a stacked event. There were really good players that didn't make top cut, and there were fantastic players that made top cut.
Yeah.
And obviously, with a leader as this, Craig, you deserve all of the praise and accomplishments and the DMs you're getting for this leader. This video is now going to be out. People can copy you and say, "Oh, I copied Craig from the card guys, and I can make this launch leader." And then we can see this, bloom. Obviously, the format right now is wide open. I think this is a leader that is a very solid contender based on how fast it is. And I congratulate you again. You did a very good job at the tournament. You had a very good run, and everyone that you tested with, that we're very proud of it.
Thank you, guys.
As I said in the beginning of this video, we do have a TCG Player affiliate link located down below in the description box. Please take a look at it. Use that link to buy the cards you find in this deck tech if you want to, invest in this deck. I think it's a great deck going into the new meta, and it helps us out. Make sure it helps the channel out, and make sure that we can give you the content that you need and that you want. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.